so we're starting our chapter on changing objects, okay? And at the very end, we're going to work on something called tessellations, and I'll show you how to make those. So we're going to look at each of these separately and also talk about some symmetry in this chapter as well. But we're learning how to take an object and flip it, slide it, turn it, or change the size. Okay, but just today and the next day, we're going to be working on something called translations, which is to slide an object. So we're going to start with that. Isometry just means that the original figure and the image are the same shape and size. So when you dilate something, either make it bigger or smaller. That's the only one that's not an isometry. Prime notation. We're going to see this all chapter. See these little apostrophes on the right hand? That means that something happened to it. Okay, it's the second object, or what we call the image. This was the original on the left, the pre-image, and then what did we do here? We flipped it or reflected it like a mirror image. Yep. Okay, so you're going to have the pre-image, which changes to the image with all the apostrophes on them. Okay, so I am going to be looking for those on the test when you draw your images. Questions on that? So nothing to write on this page. All right, so we're going to talk about, like I said, translations. We're going to slide an object. There's something called a vector that we slide these objects along, and we can write them two ways. Most common is the component form. It looks like a coordinate, but it has sharp parentheses on it. Okay, it's going to tell you how far left or right to move it and how far up or down to move it. Okay, that's called a vector. So if we're looking at this right here, if it starts at A and goes to B, notice that it moved right 5. So if we go from A to B, it moved over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it went down 2 units, so that's why it's -2 right here. Okay, you could also what's called write a rule. So this is the exact same vector as up here in red, down in blue right here. They're just telling you to take all the x values and add 5, all the y values and subtract 2. So just know that they really mean the same thing. I'm going to lean more towards using component form. So if the answer in the back of the book is written the other way, just know that they're the same thing. Okay? Does that make sense? So we're going to move each point individually when we do these. So if we have this triangle right here and we want to move it along this vector, what two directions are we moving it? This means we're going to go what direction? Up, down, left, or right? We're going to go left 3 units and down 1 unit. Okay? We're going to move all 3 points on that vector. Okay? We'll move one at a time. Let's label these with a letter. So this is going to be A. We'll put a B on this one and a C down here. So if we move A first, it's going to go 1, 2, 3, and then down 1 unit. And we can label that one A prime because we moved it. Okay, it's the image. We did something to it. Same thing with B. It's now here. That's B prime. And here. And then you connect them. So you just moved the entire triangle, left 3 units and down 1 unit. That's called translate. Questions on that? Okay, so if I gave you a vector, okay, and they're going to do this in the homework today, we need to name it and then write it in component form. Here's how we write that it's a vector. We have vector AB. It looks like half of an arrow pointing to the right. Okay, that's the symbol you put above it. So we have vector AB, we have vector CD, and EF. Okay, and then we need to write in component form what that vector is. Okay, so we're really thinking how far did it travel and in what direction. So these are always the left, right, the first number, and the second number is how far it moved up or down. So looking at A, what is the first number going to be? From A to B, how far did it travel left or right? 5. Okay, so from here over to B, where it is, it moved 5 units over. And up or down, how much? It went down 2, so it's a -2. Okay, you're just counting. From C to D, what is the left-right movement? 2, right? What about the up or down movement? 7. Okay, what about EF? It went left, yep, -3. And how far up or down? Is it positive or negative? It went up, so it's positive. Questions on that? Just saying how far it traveled, left or right, and then how far it traveled up or down. Okay. Now, what if we had a point start here and end up here? They want to know what vector it moved along. Okay, so you could imagine this in your head and just look at each one individually. The x value started at 1 and it moved to 4. So it moved 3 to the right, correct? Okay, and then the y value started at -3 and moved to 0. How far did it move up? 3. So it moved right 3 and up 3. That's the vector it moved along. Questions? All right, composition. We're going to talk about these later in the chapter as well. It's just any two transformations. We've only learned about one type of transformation, so we're going to slide an object twice. So let's say we had this picture right here, and we're going to move it along this vector, and then I'll use a different color. We'll move it along this vector. Okay, let's label this. We'll put the top one X, Y, and Z down at the bottom. So let's talk about this first vector, what two directions we're moving. The 2 means go right. The -1 means go down. Okay, so we're going to go 2 to the right and 1 down on all 3 points. So we'll go 2 to the right, 1 down. That's our x prime. Our y prime and z prime. So move each corner separately, and that moves the whole triangle. Where are we moving it on the next vector? Left 3, and we're not going up or down at all, correct? Because of the 0. So this whole triangle, this blue one, needs to shift left 3 units. We call it x double prime, so 2 apostrophes. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is looking at from the very beginning, this black one to the red one. What vector did it slide along? From the very first one to the very last one, what would this green vector be? It went left 1 and down 1, right? So left 1, down 1. What could you do instead of graphing all 3 of these, just to go from the very beginning to the very end? Do you see a shortcut looking at all of those vectors? What's the relationship between the red and the blue vector with this green one? Add what together? So what happens if you take 2, -1, and then you add those straight down? Do you get the green one? Okay, so if they're ever asking you to move on multiple vectors, you can just add all your vectors together and just do that one single vector. Questions?